We are with the one and the only my friend, Mr. Gavin Rossdale. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great, thanks.
It's great to see you. I know you just actually got back from tour, like 3 days ago or something?
Sunday. Yeah.
Sunday. Amazing tour. Alice in Chains, yourself, Breaking Benjamin. You guys never met before, so Kiki, Gavin,
Pleasure
Kiki.
to meet you.
And
legendary shredder.
Legendary shredder, exactly. Let's talk about it for a moment. We have a lot to get into. Obviously, your history, the new record, the tour, but especially the tour that just ended. I mean, pretty incredible to see you up there with Alice in Chains performing Man in the Box. How did that feel?
It was amazing. I mean, they were a few years ahead of me, and I was really inspired by them, specifically because, rock music was at that time was... I know it's like the Guns, the hair metal time. You know what I mean? It's like Sunset Strip. We're on Sunset Strip now.
My era.
It just was a bit. It was like that. So, what I liked was with Alice in Chains was like rock music that was done more like punky and a bit more straightforward and not so dramatic.
Yeah.
Drama's good, and I love those bands. Many great bands of that era. But I meant for me, I couldn't do anything like that. So when I see listen to Man in the Box, I'm like, okay, I see you. And what was funny was being on tour with him and playing with him every night, that I sort of got even deeper, like, oh my God, that track? Oh, that song? Oh, okay. And, you realize what a great songwriter Jerry is, and Lane as well. So it was good fun. I always get more nervous. Is it the same for you, Kiki, if you play with people outside of your own band?
100%, yes. For some reason, if it's my show, I'm good. If it's a guest appearance, game over. I'm practicing for a month in advance.
Kiki, we're going to have you join Bush after this podcast.
We could do with the glamour.
And also, obviously, I saw Jerry come on stage, and I think you guys played Come Down together, too.
Yeah,
right?
he came out a few times. He just had I think he had a blast with us because we're a slightly different band, obviously, and so he just got the thrill of it. And that's the ending song. And I'm sorry we didn't see you in Irvine. I thought you were coming to Irvine.
I'd intended to come. It's like...
No problem. It's far. It's far. You don't like me that much.
Yeah. It's cool. I do love you.
30 minutes fine, but 45.
3 hours each way is really tough.
Yeah. No, for sure. But it was a blast with him. And you know what it's like on stage, you can be in front of 20,000 people, but when you're performing with another band, especially another band, I have fun with my own band as well, obviously. But there's a nice moment when you're on stage and you hug each other on stage and you have that personal, Jerry just punched me like a buddy, a couple of times, look what we're doing. What are we doing here?
That's awesome.
And I like those private moments in the most obscenely public environments,
Because you guys are actually friends, you and Jerry. He was on the show not long ago, but how did the tour come about? You were friends, and all of a sudden he was like, by the way, I have a great idea. How did the tour actually come about?
How it came about was Peter Katzis, who's here now,
we know Peter Katzis.
Excellent manager. He
was one of the best managers in the business.
I'm very lucky. We're talking with Breaking Benjamin about going out with them and trying to steal their audience, you know what I mean? And just like how you do when you play people that don't know you so well. And likewise, they would steal some of ours. So it's a quid pro quo thing. And weirdly, in Reno, I went there and I sang Wood by Alice in Chains with Breaking Benjamin.
Oh, I saw that.
Just went on stage with them
cool.
for fun, And then I found out a few months later, or a few variants later, it goes, oh, look, Alice in Chains are going on a tour with Breaking Benjamin. I was like, oh, that sucks. I thought that was our tour. So I'm like, okay, what are we going to do? And then they were like, you want to come and play with us? So we went and played with them.
And were you rotating time slots on the tour?
Hell no. I'm a baby band again. I got a hit record and I played at 625.
Yeah.
I'm the best baby band in the business. But the good news is that it was generally about between 10 and 14,000 would show up for
Incredible.
us. And then it would fill out for the others, or there wasn't that much space. But I was like, oh my God, my ego was crushed. What am I going to do? Okay, that's it. It's warfare. I'm just going to kill on stage. And there's going to be no one there anyway. Who cares? It's and I went out and it was really full. And then that beautiful feeling that when you play is really looking great. It looks like a sort of a decent show as opposed to oh my God, it's so sort of okay, decent. It's big venues. As soon as you start playing, one song in, 2 songs in, it's like people come there like rats coming in from a sinking ship, but going back into the fray. So it was great for that. And as I say, it's kind of fun to play then. And then we were done. It's just weird when I played with Alice in Chains because I had to wait until 10:20. We were on 6:30.
Everyone's sleeping at that point.
That's my voice, you know, like you've been singing for an hour and a half, whatever, warming up. I'm like, I had to keep ready to go back on stage, and people are on the bus and hanging out. The bus is swaying with people hanging out and tequila and woo, this is amazing, what a great night. And I'm like, this is so cool. I got to go back on stage right now.
Get off the
bus.
bus.
I couldn't do it. I just go to the back of the bus and just relax, you know.
Well, the truth is you actually didn't even get to tour the last record, too. So you were actually playing songs from both these new records now.
Yeah, well, I played More Than Machines off of the new record that came out, The Art Survival, and that was the only one. And yeah, this was mainly, we just played 5 or 6 songs from The Kingdom, and we had the choice of playing hit songs, which we did a few of, and also incorporating the new stuff. So it's like, you know, when people that didn't know us, I just felt like a riff was way better than a song. You know what I mean? I was like, crush them, don't try and anything else. Just like beat them with sound and stuff like that. And plus, I always try and sing in a friendly way over the top of the riff, you know?
Yeah, now did the kids come out on tour? We were talking about the kids right before we started. Now they came out on the road with you?
Oh, yeah. They came out and they have an amazing time. They're old enough now that the 2 older ones got their passes. They can hang out. They know what they're doing. They go around, hang out. Had their friends come out on the road. Friends came and stayed with us as we were like a traveling bus. And my little 8-year-old was just, it was just so sweet. It was brilliant because they every night they had this cool idea, as opposed to like 30 pizza boxes for all the crew and the bands after the shows. You know how that goes. They had a food truck every night. It was so much fun. And so one night, my kid, he's 8 years old, Apollo, goes to his brother, we got to get off. The food truck's here. There's hot dogs, free hot dogs. And I was like, free hot dogs? I said, you haven't paid for a hot dog in your whole life. What are you talking about? Every hot dog, everything's free for you.
Life is free.
So it was amazing with them. And we actually had a really good night. A few nights ago, the food truck didn't show. And so my tour manager's boyfriend is a tour chef. So I heard that he was in the kitchen. He jumped in the kitchen. There's like 40 people to feed, and there's no one. So I jumped in the kitchen with him. You know, I like cooking. And I just was like his super sous chef, just like whatever job needed doing to aid him. And we fed like 40, 50 people. It was so fun. And all in the big kitchen, everyone coming in. It was a brilliant night.
Awesome.
Well, you threw a great party, by the way. I've been to your house for your son's birthday. You threw a great birthday party, which is incredible. I want to get into your cooking, obviously the cooking show that we're going to talk about, and the history and the new record, of course, and the tour. But let's take it back a little bit to the beginning. I was actually telling Kiki how we met years ago. It's one of my favorite stories. We've told the story so many times, but I think the $1 million question is, did you ever follow me back? Because I know at some point you unfollowed me, which is always the most awkward thing in life, right? When you meet people, you're like...
Once we became friends, I was in on the invites. I was like, yeah, of course I followed you back. It was just the trouble was you killed me at the I think it was the Jews who rock or dudes in rock or something like that, and I was like absent. So I was like,
we can make an honorary Jew. Just give me a bagel, you'll be fine. It's good to go. Well, taking it back to the beginning a little bit, I was actually doing some research today, and we were talking about just between us a little bit when you first started many years ago. Actually, you first started in like a dance rock band, right? I think the first 2 records you made were more dance oriented.
With right at the beginning of my whole life.
But yeah, your whole life, like taking it back to the beginning.
Bush. There was
pre-Bush.
Excuse me. Yeah. Midnight. There was 2 singles, King of the Mountain and Run With You. And we just finding our way. You know what I mean? Who knows what we were doing? I wasn't playing any music then. I was just sort of like trying to help, but without helping. I sang all the melodies. I don't know what I was thinking. Can you imagine? I'd be like sing melodies into a phone or the tape machine and be like, yeah, here's a song I wrote. And I'd be like, the fuck is this guy? But that's what I did, yeah.
And initially, it's funny because I was listening to something where I think it was Nigel or someone that said, don't go for the high notes, right? Because I think you were unsure about your voice early on.
Well, that was my second band where I was like trying to be super collaborative, which is never a good idea, really, let's face it. And I said to the drummer, just before we walked on stage, just a pub gig like in Herne Hill in London. It's like rubbish. It was a fun pub gig. And I said to him, anything I should think about, when I'm doing the show? And it's just like my 4th show of my life, and he goes, yeah, all good, watch the high notes. And I was just like, before I went out on stage, what's the high notes? Like, where am I in a danger zone?
And so, yeah, let's talk about that a little bit. The early days. So it's funny again doing a little bit of deep dive today. It's funny. The first song you ever wrote was "Come Down," and who would have ever thought that song would go on to become so iconic? So talk to me about the process of actually, forming Bush and meeting Nigel and just getting into songwriting early on in your career.
Well, it's weird because as I said in my first band, I was in 2 other bands, one mainly, and then one didn't get any signed or anything. But the first band was signed to Epic because we had potential, right? And when I was after the second band, when that guitar player the second band I was in is a great guy, but I sort of found out the kind of band I didn't want to be in. It's more straight ahead rock, a little bit way more bluesy, and I was like, I don't know. And he wouldn't let me play guitar. I was terrible. I'm not even that good now. Nothing like you. So I was like, it wasn't that good, but it somehow. So it was weird because I was sort of stunted. And he goes, "No, I'll play guitar." So it made sense. So he played it, and I sang and all that. And then we broke up. It didn't work. Whatever like that happened. And when I was looking for guitar players to work with, I was like, "You're kind of pathetic. You're a songwriter. And you can't throw a few chords together. I mean, look at these guys busking. Well, they got 4 chords, 3 chords here. Sort your life out." So I was like, okay, so just physically force myself to sit down and figure it out. When I found that D goes to the A and then down to the G, I was like, okay, we're okay.
We're in business.
I see you.
Let's go.
Go. I got this. And that's how it is. And then what's weird is that at the time I'd met Nigel, who's an amazing guitar player, but he was earning about $1,000 a day, which is a fortune to unsigned musicians, doing training videos, terrible things, soul destroying work, but you get paid. And
teaching guitar.
No, like a work video, like a sort of people do terrible, like a company does a weekend retreat.
Oh, right,
Then they do the video of it, and he did the music. There's nothing, but he was really good at it. So I said, let's try this band. He said, well, if you have any songs, bring them round. So I kind of struggled through "Come Down" and a couple of other songs, and I took them round to him, and he demoed them up great. He's really good at it, right? So I was like, cool. So did I pass the test? Are we now going to sit and write Jagger and Richards? This is where we're going. Where are we going here? And he goes, no, it's better you just write like that, and I'll just demo them up. Meaning he's busy, I wasn't paying him, and it was a loss of earnings to take time out for me. So that's how we got into the whole thing with Bush, that I would write the songs, take them to him, and the other guys with the rhythm section. We know they don't, Right. I don't know if you care that much about writing songs, but most drummers are like,
I mean, I do, but it's funny because as a drummer, you have to make yourself useful. So sometimes those, the drummers go on to manage the bands because they're not writing the music, and it's like, do something. You don't want to get kicked out. All right, I'll be the manager. So
managed by the drummer.
Yeah, it happens.
I don't know about that. I'll stick with Peter. Peter, I'm with you.
I'm not suggesting I manage you. I'm just suggesting that's what happens sometimes, right? I think a lot of famous drummers like Paul Geary, is a guy that I know that was a drummer in a band, and he became a manager because they just needed to figure out what to do in the band. But you're right. But I mean, when you write a song like "Come Down," do you then realize, all right, this is I'm onto something here, obviously?
Well, I mean, it began, my whole life, my whole vocation, and now, I do collaborate. What happens is that I'll get, some people send me music, and if I like something, I'm like, it's like taking time off, and I just do the top line. I don't have to think about anything else. Sure, let's see if I like it. So it's really fun, and like writing with Tyler Bates. I've done a few songs like that. He'll send a bunch of things over, and I'll respond to something, or respond to a bit of something, and then we sit in the studio together and push it together where I play music as well. But I've written so many songs. I'm really happy when someone else does that heavy lifting for a minute. It's kind of fun. And then there's some other songs, situations. There's a couple on the record, "May Your Love Be Pure" and "Human Sand," where I write them, and then Chris comes in, the guitar player, and he's really good. And with "Human Sand," which is on the record, it's my most bluesy moment. Actually, it's really sort of it's just like the Black Keys-esque Division 3 riff, and when he heard it, he just moved it around to put some counterpoints, some nice changes, like bass players do that, where they just go out of the root notes. You know what I mean? They create harmony, they just create counterpoint in there, and he did that. So I'm like, that when it affects a song like that, that's a co-write because it really affects the feel, and but it's still. Yeah, so I don't really sit there with acoustic guitars looking in someone's eyes going, well, what are we going to do for the chorus? I've never done that. I don't know how to do that. Too awkward.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting, even 16 Stone, initially you didn't get a deal. It took a while to get a deal. And then we were just talking about K-Rock, where you just were a minute ago. The record kind of broke on K-Rock.
100%.
Yeah, so it's come full circle. Look at you now. You just got back, and this is where the record broke. So the first time you heard it on K-Rock, was that like an aha moment for you?
Well, it was a funny moment this morning with me and Peter after I finished the K-Rock, and a couple of guys, DJs walk in and out like that, and they go, hey, how you guys doing? Just trying to get a play, just trying to keep it real here. Just standing outside, boycotting K-Rock till they play more of the machines. Come on, Kevin.
And you were mentioning,
wake up.
You were also saying that's funny because people don't go there anymore, right? Because this is
no, they said that they hadn't seen any humans for some time there. They were kind of surprised. They were happy to see us.
Do you like doing all the promo for the record? Obviously, you're in promotion. The record just came out. We want to get into that too. But
yeah, it's really fun. I mean, because people are really nice and respectful, and they make me think in a way about myself that would be really weird if I thought about myself in any way like that. You know what I mean? And like yesterday I did Zane Lowe, and I love Zane. He's so good. He's such a smart interviewer. And he just was so kind to me and complimentary that I was like, I felt great all day. It was great. He gave me a boost. So it's fun, especially when the record's good. Like if we did a poopy record, I'd be like less inclined probably, you know what I mean? I know. Better luck next time.
Well, the record is great. Let's get into it, obviously. The Artist Survival just dropped. The album title is so apropos right now to with everything going on in this world. And I remember when you and I were hanging out a bunch, you didn't really want to see many people during the pandemic, but I feel like I did see you. We'll get into your cooking because you made me this incredible lunch. But everybody was like afraid, and you especially. I remember when we first started talking about it, you would say to me, we didn't know if you could get it from a tree. Right. Like remember that point where it was like everyone was so
washing your groceries. I'd go up the stairs, feel my knee, go, oh my God, I got it. I think I got it. You know what I mean? I just didn't know.
We would never have done this like 2 years ago. This just was not a thing where you would have all these people in a room.
Well, we could be in separate bubbles.
Yeah, we could have. We could have had like
pods,
hazmat suits or something. But does obviously the title of the record, The Art of Survival, talk to me about how that came about, because we all, even to this day, right, it's still like just surviving, coming out of this thing and looking where we're at in life. I think everyone's pretty grateful that we're able to do things like this.
Yeah, it's extraordinary. You could literally talk to anybody on the street, in a restaurant, in a bar, wherever you meet them, on a plane, and you will hear a story of great survival, some weird challenge, terribleness, and you feel terrible for them. And I just felt like collectively, especially since we've been on Australia, Europe, and now America on tour this year, since March. And I just saw the gathering of all these people, and I just thought about all these separate lives that come together for that night, for that band. What's weird about the record is that it's, I went through a lot like everybody, but I went through some crazy stuff. And I think that when you can take off as many layers as possible within yourself when you write, and you get as honest as you can, like bare bones, like uncomfortably honest with yourself and certain things you think about. and that's when, in a strange way, it makes it more universal. The more personal you get, the more likely you are to strike a note, I think, with other people who have that same journey they've been on in a different perspective, but similar effect, an emotional kind of devastation and concern. And so I love the whole thing of album title and names and stuff like that. And when I thought about The Art of Survival, I was like, oh my God, that's it. And then you do that really scary thing where you do a search to make sure who's had a big record called that,
right.
7 other artists.
There's so many records out. You feel, it can happen, and it was okay. We got through that, and I did see a couple of people would use that phrase, but I was like, you know what? I would never steal it from anyone. But if you thought of it, and it just happened that they also did, I'm okay with that because mine was so real. You know what I mean? It's not a lie. If I'd been sort of in an ivory castle with servants and stuff like that, and away from it all, then I wouldn't have the right. But I have the right.
And by the way, the meaning of this record takes on such a new meaning in what we're going through now in this world, right? So did that have some kind of factor when you decided to call it what we were all going through?
Yeah, because lots of it. I talk about human sand. It's like how important we are to each other, yet how sort of insignificant we are in the scheme of things.
Yeah.
And we are just grains of sand, you know what I mean? But we have these lives and we orbit around each other and we try and do the best we can. But there's a kind of irrelevance and there's a fragility to us because we're all pretty replaceable and irrelevant.
It's true.
More Than Machines, an incredible single. Obviously, Elon Musk just came out with this robot. I mean, again, taking on a whole new meaning with what's going on. So, amazing song. I always told you, like, Chemicals Between Us is one of my favorite songs that you do. And I love the combination of, like, the electronica and the rock side of things. So, Kiki, I'm sure you'll agree it's an incredible track.
Oh, 100%. I listened it was actually the soundtrack to my ride here as well.
Oh,
it took me about like 40 minutes to get here and I was like super soaked. I love the flow of the album. It's incredible. So
yeah, so talk about the single a little bit and you know where that came from.
It's one of those annoying things where, you know, you get harassed by the label to that's great. Thank you for these 12. Actually, we sent 3 tracks in, and then we sent the whole record, and they said, you know, what else? Have you got anything else? Is maybe something, you know? So I was pissy for a few days. Not long. I had 3 days of pissiness because you like just know there's a catch-22 that if they push you, you could come up with something better. Then they're right, and they've you know. So it works when it works, and it was weird because I got asked that I pissed and moaned for like 2 days, and then I wrote it on the Sunday, and so it was really quick. The turnaround between being attacked like that. You see how, as an artist, I call it being attacked.
Yeah.
They attacked me trying to make my record great.
You're right, it's whatever it takes, right?
So, and what's weird is that whole Roe versus Wade thing had happened, and it was weird how it sat in my system. I just sat in my system as a, you know, a father of 3 boys and a girl, and I want my boys to look after, be respectful to women, and I was just like, it just really sat with me. It was like a thorn. And so I was actually really happy to get the opportunity to put that into a song. So I was like, okay, let's see, maybe this is the one, I can get it right on that. And so that's what that was. And then the machine stuff is just sort of is what we live with and how it is, and we're all being replaced. You know? So it's like, what's happening? Shredders aren't. They haven't. Don't worry.
Hopefully,
your job's safe.
Knock on wood.
The rest of us,
drummers are for sure.
Oh,
drummers
not.
Unless you're a manager.
That's true. That's true. Well, it's interesting. I mean, we were talking about it a little bit. You work with Tyler Bates on the record, and I think that you had to have like a lunch with him before you actually decided to work with him.
Yeah, he had a sort of a interesting selection process. You know,
which is why, because we had a lunch
we had
together.
2 lunches.
Yeah, like I guess that's maybe a thing with you. Steve Albini, you had a lunch. That's like a thing. You have to have a lunch before you decide
you know, when you break bread, it's all good. You know, it's a nice way to do it.
So it's the kind of thing where you had lunch with him. Were you unsure about working with him initially, and then it just
with Tyler?
Yeah, with Tyler.
Well, I was a bit standoff. I didn't know, you know, and it was Peter's idea, and we went to the grill on the alley, and we had a kind of fun adult lunch, but what's funny is I think we had a second lunch. I was like, damn, I didn't get through. What's going on? I got to step up my charm. And it turns out that, you know, we became really, really good friends. And he lives 5 minutes from me. And I love the way it works. Like, I like to work quick. And so he does about 2-3 films at a time and 3 TV shows. He's got 3 studios running in his house. It's a very, very kind of busy environment, great people, great engineers all working there. And so when you go in, the first day I went there, when I first met him after the lunches, I was thinking, well, I'm going to the studio, I've got my tea, I've got the water, self-sufficient, I'm not going to bug anyone, I'm here this, 12, 14 hours, I don't know what this guy's going to want to do, because it's not normally how I say, like, how I work. So I went there, and he was feeling a bit like, I think, you know, he was like, having me there, so he's trying to make me feel comfortable, and he showed me this new pedal he had, I think this depressor pedal, right?
That's a thing, a depressor.
Yeah, a depressor, yeah, it's great. Right up my street. Right up my street. And he showed me it, and I took my phone and just like, as he's playing, I just took the riff he was playing into that, and then we stopped, and then I was like, that's cool, yeah, cool pedal, it's depressing. And then he played me 3 things that he'd written in preparation, you know, some ideas. And I was thinking, I was like, I don't know if that's quite... Because I'm looking for stuff I couldn't possibly do. because there's no point. If I could completely do that, I was like, what am I doing here? There's a lot of my ego involved here, but I was like...
Because you have your own studio at your house.
Yeah. So I didn't need to be there. I just was intrigued about the connection. And he played the three things, and I was like, well, it's cool. I said, well, I don't know what I really like. And I played him his riff back. I was like, that riff is cool. Let's work on that. So he goes, okay, great. Well, let me work it up and just, do you want to come tomorrow? And I was like, ooh, I was out there in an hour. I was like, perfect. Who doesn't like leaving work early?
Yeah.
So, and then every time I went, so then we'd have an exchange, and then he'd send me the music. He goes, this is what I did. Check it out. So then I come up with a top line and another section or something myself. And so I go the next day, and I'm just warm up in the car because I know he's so busy. So I warm up, I walk in, I can walk on the mic and I can get going. I'm like, I got time, your time is limited. And so that's how we do it. And so I love working with him. He's really amazing. And as I say, he's one of my best friends.
Because for a record like The Kingdom, the process was a lot different for you recording it, or was it?
Yeah, I don't know. What was that? Oh, yeah, that was me sat in my studio in North Hollywood, like with a poor engineer who just sit there when I'd be like, okay, just let me play this riff. I'm going to find it, like 10-hour days, And then on this record, because I set my studio up in my house, I would do all that stuff, exploratory stuff myself. So I can record myself to... make songs, and then I don't do vocals because I just cannot be that guy. And then recording myself, Lonely Joe, get a cymbal on my back or something like that, like one-man band. I don't mind that. So that's how I worked. And this record was like getting the song. I had to get my song stuff together for a week, then have the engineer for a week, and then keep flip-flopping.
Awesome. And Kiki, you may not know, but Gavin is an incredible chef. Just to sidebar for a moment. So he made me this amazing lunch. I guess it was probably a year and a half ago, and I got to see how incredibly talented you are in the kitchen. We should talk about it a little bit because you weren't aware, I don't think, right?
Well, I didn't remember. So we did something called Heavy Metal Kitchen. So we recorded it, and basically Scott made me eggs, like his signature eggs. But he did drop your name a couple of times because one of the taglines was low and slow. And we said that several times, and I'm like, low and slow.
Do you remember you gave me advice on how to cook eggs during the pandemic? You wrote me a note and you said, just so you know, you got to take it off the heat and then stir it.
Yeah,
this is not me name dropping. This is actually a real time thing that happened. And so I was like, I really didn't know. I mean,
you're saying your eggs were a bit stiff or something. I seem to remember. I was like, I can help you with that.
It was a good tip, though. They were delicious.
Thank you. Well, courtesy of So, but talk about a little bit about your love for cooking, and obviously this new show that you're working on. I think you had Tom Jones over, and you guys had worked on some. Yeah.
Well, I basically shot this pilot 3 years ago. It's been impossible to make. It's really hard to get going in TV from a flat non-running start, not being in TV. And I've gone through different people helping me to sell it, the sort of agencies or showrunners.
Yeah.
And so I went through 2 or 3, and they never quite got it done. And now I signed with a company a few months ago, and I think they're pretty close to finishing a deal, so we're actually going to make it because I've been talking about it. And they put out a huge press release when I signed with them as the kind of shopping deal thing. And everyone was freaking out. This is great. When's the show? And stuff. I was thinking, oh my God.
Still shopping it.
Yeah. I was like, are we a little premature here, And so hopefully soon. I was hoping that I'd shoot it in November, but
the premise being you cook with other celebrities,
really simple.
Right?
No, it's really simple. I just invite someone that people know, a famous person, a celebrity, and I make dinner for them and ply them with wine if that's what they like, or green tea if they prefer, whatever, and just find a way to talk to people that it's not about selling something. It's not about anything other than what makes them tick and what's sort of under the bonnet of their spirit, who are they? And so it was fun to have, amazing to have Tom Jones, talking about his childhood, and his dad was a miner and what went on there, and how he's so hardworking. He's 83,
incredible.
83, still on tour.
Yeah, incredible.
When I go to London, I always try and see him. but it's hard when he's on tour. It's like the guy, he's unbelievable.
Yeah, he's incredible.
And so we had a great time, and I had an amazing time on The Voice with him as well. You know, I worked with him for 5 months on The Voice in London. So that's how I got to know him so good. And I was like, hey, would you do this for me? I mean, it's pretty spectacular to get him as a guest because
he doesn't do much,
easy.
I feel. He doesn't do much.
No, and you know what's incredible is to have all the footage of him and all of his perspectives and jokes and drinking his Bollinger and smoking cigars, and it's just killer.
Have you ever been like intimidated to cook for someone in the kitchen, like an amazing chef that you're like, I don't want to cook in front of Gordon Ramsay here?
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm pretty relaxed. You know, the thing is, when I'm into it so much, and I enjoy it so much that unlike going on stage singing in other people's bands, I don't. You know what I mean? It's all right. I can cook and talk, and it's not really. And I don't. I'm the opposite. You know, those kind of cooks that like, oh, just get out of the kitchen, everybody. I can't think straight. You know, like those joyless cooking. I think cooking should be joyful and fun, and it's not. My thing is going to be a cooking for people. It's not collaborative. I don't ask people to come around and stir that. No, I'm not into that.
Mostly Italian, I would assume, because when I came over, you made me this incredible pasta.
I made you pesto genovese,
exactly.
and I made you with the green beans and the potato, especially to show you.
I love how you remember that. I can't even remember that.
That's good memory. I want to try.
But mostly Italian. Would you say that's sort of where you focus on?
No, I love to cook Italian, but I mean on the show, for instance, there's so many times I can use pasta, so I've got to be careful. I think the secret for me that I find is just finding the best ingredients and just getting out of the way of them and just like working them enough. It's just details. Cooking to me is a process. You know, even the most complicated cooking is really, when you break it down, it's a process. Sure. And once you've figured the process, it's all malleable. You can move things around and change proteins and change vegetable, whatever. And I'm obsessed with it. I just love it so much because I love the details that go in it. Like Kiki knows. Well, Kiki's the guitar player, you're the drummer, but it's like the records are details.
Yeah, of course.
So many details. It's just like, oh my god. You got 32 tracks on every song, and everything's got to be considered. And it's not dissimilar in cooking. That I think people just get flustered with cooking, and when you break it down, you relax, you enjoy it.
Yeah,
it's not beyond most people.
Yeah, I was going to say, you have so many amazing friends and so many great people that actors and people you're friends with. So, do you have like a dream list of people that you'd want to cook for coming up for the show?
I'm English, right? So
I think so. Yeah.
I don't really like. I don't like leaning on people. It really makes me feel super awkward.
Yeah.
I know a bunch of people through the years, but I'm just horrified about asking them. Yeah.
So if the show comes up, the network will get the gas. You'll just be like...
Well, I hope. That's always been my sort of Achilles heel with it, to be honest. Of like, I'm with everyone that I meet, I'm like, straight up. I'm not ransacking my phone to get people to help me.
Yeah.
I think that once it gets going and people see it, that it's basically a fluff piece because you get to come and talk about yourself in an interesting way, and we're only going to edit and make people look good. So there's no point having someone on there who has a terrible time, doesn't enjoy the food, and look at these terrible sides of person X. No, it's just like it's meant to sort of show people who people are. I did notice that Kevin Hart has that show where he drinks wine and they sit there and they drink wine. And, that.
This is different.
Mine's way more. It's a bit more relaxed. It's super relaxed because you're there for the eve. It's like I cooked. The 2 days I did 12 to 6 for the cooking, and I'm talking to the director about what I'm doing and why I'm doing it and all that stuff.
You've done like 2 so far, right?
Done 2,
yeah. So.
And then at 6 o'clock the guest arrives. Both days I did it. Someone arrives, and then it's real time. Then you come in, you have a drink, they're filming that, then you have, you know what I mean? It's like it's real time, and so they're leaving at 10. So it's that's how it is.
Definitely. Well, let's talk about one other thing. How's your tennis game, by the way?
My tennis game, it's good. I haven't been playing for a few months because I've been touring, and so my body is rested and ready to go.
And a lot of people don't know that Gavin's like almost like a pro. I would say you're like tennis pro level, right?
Really?
Because I hit next to you once and I was like intimidated. I didn't want to get anywhere near the court. You were incredible.
Thank you. I do very few things and I try and do them well. Tom Waits said that the way you do anything is the way you do everything.
True.
So I just minimize the amount of things I do so that I can do those things well.
But you're friends with Roger Federer. Have you guys ever hit together?
Yeah.
And I'm assuming that who won?
Well, we don't go all the way down to sets because I don't think there's much point.
Yeah.
You know, I can, you know, he's broken sweats.
Yeah.
What can I say?
And let's talk a little bit about the tour coming up. Are there more dates coming up this year, next year?
No, I'm unemployed as we
You're
speak.
unemployed. Well, I'm not really worried about that.
I'm running out of things. Like once this promo stuff is done, I'm literally unemployed. Oh, New Year's Eve, we're playing in Las Vegas, and also on the 30th, I'm playing somewhere near Las Vegas.
So it's adjacent.
So I got
Las
2
Vegas
shows
adjacent.
left. Yeah, we play Las Vegas on the 30th, somewhere on the 30th, and then the 31st. For New Year's Eve, we play. What's weird is we play in the street, like a big street festival.
All
thing.
right, the ones that are downtown where they have that whole.
Yeah, I think so. But what's weird is we go on at like 11:40. We stop for New Year's Eve, do the countdown, and then continue on and play for another half an hour.
And the set list is it hard to come up with the set list having so many great songs at this point? 2 new records, right? I think you're only doing More Than Machines from this new record. Currently live, but is it hard to come up with the set list when you have so many hits? I mean, I'm not trying to just
for sure.
tell you have so many hits, but
thank you.
I think the world knows you have so many hits.
Anybody say the word, that terrible word? Anyone knows that terrible word? Maybe Kiki's thinking of it. I don't know. Medley? Terrible. We need to get an MD in, you know. We need to get an MD to come and like strip it around, like jazz funk it up, get some jazz funk breaks and just switch and combine some songs. Well, it's a high class problem. What we don't do is we're useless. We don't rehearse enough.
Right.
So if we ever spend the time like 2 weeks rehearsing, you could work out. I've said this for so many years, and no one in my band listens to me. Yeah, sure. And but you get like 5 sets. 1 to 5.
Yeah.
And then you work out a beautiful set, different to 5 separate But it's just me. It's just I'm like a frequency to them when I say that. They go, yeah, cool. And then you kind of hone in on what you want to play, and then that's kind of
because ideally the audience always wants to hear the memorable songs and the hits. But
it's a combination.
I mean, do you ever think about? Do you ever dig deep? And do you get along with the other band members in terms of like, are you on the same page with the set list all the time? Or not?
Yeah. I get they're great. I mean, one thing about my band, which I'm so happy about, is that we genuinely really like each other.
Yeah.
We get along great with friends. It's tough.
It's really tough in a band.
We really get along great, and so
it's like a family.
It's ironic when there are certain bands that are usually the right on the PC ones, the cool ones, and then they have a rift in the band where they don't talk to each other, but they just want to go out and play. I just find that really weird. I mean, I wouldn't want to be on stage with someone if I didn't like.
Yeah.
No, I wouldn't like that. I've had a couple of times where once or twice, like one time I woke up from a Xanax and I was all pissy and I shouted at Chris about something. I really didn't need to, right? And then the whole gig, I was trying to sort of connect with him during the show, and he's sort of like, he just wouldn't have it. Would not have it. I was like, oh, I'm in trouble. So afterwards, I was like, please let me back in. I'm sorry.
But they're generally your friends. I mean, I see the way that you are always promoting some of their solo,
Oh my God, yeah. No, we even socialize when we're not working. Yeah. Imagine that. Who knew?
They're at the
Who knew
birthdays.
It was possible? They're everywhere. Of course, I love them.
And any more acting coming up? I guess we could talk about...
I have heard that Constantine 2 is being made, so our next call is to Akiva to be like, put me in that movie. Exactly. But I don't know what's happening there, so I hope that they bring my character back, Balthazar from the dead. It's a movie, of course they can. Yes. I died in a swirl of modern filmmaking, so they can...
I just rewatched that last night, by the way, and it was so. I feel like I know you so well because I've like watched all these videos, and I'm just like, oh my gosh.
You do. That's all there is to me.
Incredible. What was it like being on that movie, by the way? Because I know that there's this huge Marvel boom. They're doing all of these like comic book adaptations now, and that movie was actually one of the first before that whole boom. Right. Like, what drew you to the project?
Well, it was one thing that I realized as I was driving to work on the first day there, that I was like the least experienced person on the whole set. It's a $100 million movie, and I was thinking everyone has way more experience than me. And I actually grew up with Rachel Weisz in London. I knew her for a long time. She's a good old friend, she's a great girl, and I went up to her after the reading. I was like, listen, I'm so sorry. I really don't want to screw up your movie. I know this is your big movie, but I'm going to know my lines. I'm going to show up on time. So don't worry. Rest assured, I'm going to take it seriously. So it was so much fun. And then Keanu, Jaimin, Honsu, you know.
Yeah. You maintained, I think, a friendship with Keanu, right? We talked about that last time.
Well, because I did with Bullet Holes, John Wick.
Exactly.
And so I was back on the coattails of a Warner Brothers big movie. Just like, I'm back in the game, fellas. And hanging out with Keanu. And it was, he's amazing. I love him.
So let's definitely petition to bring you back from the dead on this segment.
Well, only started by me. I'm the only signature
sign
right
too.
now.
We're there.
Me and Peter. That's it.
Well, we'll all chip in.
Okay, we've got 4 signatures now.
There'll be more. One last thing I want to talk about.
Everyone here.
One last thing I want to talk about. I know you've spoken about Woodstock 99 before, but obviously the movie's out just not long ago. And you know, let's talk about a little bit about your experiences at the festival and what it was like and everything that, you know, people have been talking about it since the movie came out again and sort of reliving the past. So talk to me about what it was like back then and sort of reliving that time period for yourself. I know you're a huge Hendrix fan and...
Well, exactly. And so being that I'd watched that documentary from '69 about 1,300 times, when we got got booked for that show, I was like, this is amazing. You know, like, we're really part of culture and this is our response, or this is it's the passing of the torch. And it was a bit embarrassing when I saw the documentary that all the guys who ran it were like, so sad. The only person that didn't really get what was going on was Gavin from BUSH. He's trying to promote this like great community. Meanwhile, everyone else was like, punching each other out and like, bro culture was like in full force. But
It was a whole.
I mean, I love both those bands a lot. They're fantastic bands, and I love them live. I don't want to run into another dude when I see them live. You know, I don't want to join the mosh pit. It doesn't make me feel that, but I love those bands. You know, Wes Borland, one of my favorite guitar players of all time. He's incredible.
But your experiences at the festival were much different than some of the.
Yeah, well, we'd been in a bubble in London, actually recording The Science of Things and recording Chemicals Between Us, and I was in 2 studios in London at Mayfair Studios. There was Primal Scream, Blur, Oasis, everyone in the pub right there. As the whole London scene was happening. And I'd just been living in Ireland, writing the record. So I was writing there in Ireland. Then I went to go and play Woodstock. And I love not knowing what the stage looks like. I have this sort of weird thing. I love not looking out. And so on that one, I remember, I think it was like at the back, almost like... ski races, they're sort of in the gates. I was there and I went on stage, and when I saw the crowd, I was like, oh, fuck, that's a lot of people. It was like as far as you could see. So I got a rush of adrenaline and nerves and stuff like that. And just, tried to do a good show, and that was it. And so someone said to me the other day, hey, well done, you really managed to bring the crowd down after Korn. I'm like, I wasn't actually trying to bring them down. I mean, just, entertain them in a different way, maybe.
Yeah.
I was trying to not promote any violence. I was just trying to promote community. Everything that we talk about now.
Yeah. Have you seen the documentary, by the way?
I did. And honestly... I loved your performance the best in that whole documentary, because that's what the energy needed. It needed that, and it wasn't it was a very peaceful moment. I think the crowd needed.
I wasn't trying to fight anyone. I was having a great time. I was like, couldn't believe it. I'm here. Hendrix was here.
Yeah.
I'm not going to fight anyone that night. I'm like, how did I get here? I was just blown away that I had that I was honored to play something like that.
Yeah.
And I think obviously by Saturday and then by Sunday night, it went to a whole different place. Yeah. And I was going through in the documentary, I felt terrible. I was like, I did not get this complete memo. And they go, what do you remember about this show? From 23 years ago. Yeah. I was like, the catering was pretty good. I don't know what I remember. It was great.
What were your thoughts on the movie in general when you watch it now?
Whenever you talk about people, there's gang rapes, you talk about the victims. So I just was like horrified and humbled by the fact that somebody somewhere, or people still probably live in that PTSD. So I just was like, it's not about anyone but the victims after you bring that kind of information through. So I was like, I didn't know what to say. When I was being interviewed, I was like, how long is this interview going on? Because you've beaten me out of anything to say. What can I say to follow that?
Yeah, definitely. Well, on that note, definitely check out the new record. It's incredible. So if everyone has not picked up The Art of Survival, do people pick up records now, or they
I
just
hope
listen
so.
to records?
As you said that, I was thinking, thanks, Scott. We wish, we hope that. My mum maybe, but I don't know.
Well, I think people, I mean, is it coming out on, is it on vinyl?
It's good. Yeah, we're doing the vinyl. We're doing the vinyl.
So pick up the vinyl for sure.
Yes.
It's an incredible record. There's some amazing songs in it. One of my favorite records you've made.
Thank you.
And definitely when you play in town or even 2 hours away, I'm coming next time for sure.
It's all good.
I definitely
It's a
also
busy
want
life.
to, I think we need to catch up properly too and do another like lunch and maybe Gavin will cook for me again. Kiki, maybe
Yes.
we'll invite you. You'll see what a great
would
chef
love
he
to.
is. And I'd love to see the show. So I feel like it's called Eat, right? That's the name of the
Yeah, I
working
mean,
title of the show?
it's called Eat and Eat with Gavin Rossdale, which means everything always tonight.
Amazing. And don't forget New Year's Eve. By the time the show comes out in a couple weeks, I think all the details of New Year's Eve will be ironed out. They'll be announced. Everything will know where you're playing. So definitely check out the New Year's Eve show and the show right near. I think there's a show right before New Year's Eve too. Peter Katz is
There is.
yes. So there is a show right before. Pleasure to see you, my man. Always
Nice to see
fun.
you.
It's great. And let's do it again soon. Appreciate it.
Anytime.
Awesome.
Thank you for
Thank
having
you.
me.